Hey everybody, today's lesson is going to be on symbiotic relationships. So in order for a relationship to be symbiotic, the first thing I need you to realize is they have to be in close proximity to one another. So let me use this example. Do I feel like a polar bear can eat a parrot? Of course, chow down on it. But why would a polar bear and a parrot never interact? Because they live in two different biomes, two different habitats. Okay, so make sure you realize when you do these, they have to be in close proximity to one another and they have to interact somehow. Okay, so there are four that we're going to talk about today. The first one, everyone already knows this one, is predator-prey. This is when one organism hunts down, kills, and usually eats the other. Most predator-prey relationships, things don't just kill to be killing. They actually hunt it to eat it. Okay, so the example here is the lynx and the snow hare, the shark and the seal. And then I know this one here is totally photoshopped, but it's funny to me. You've got a snake eating a frog, eating a dragonfly, who's eating a ladybug, who's eating a flower. So anyway, predator-prey. And I'm going to put the links to these videos up here for you guys in Google Classroom, okay? I just don't want to spend the time showing them on this recording. Okay, so guys, one thing you might have to be able to learn to do is read a predator-prey graph. So I know these lines are a little jumbly, but the hare is the solid line and the lynx is the dotted line. So obviously there are more hares than there are lynxes. Remember when we did the food chain, since the lynx would be a bigger predator, they would be present in a smaller amount. So what do you notice in terms of trends of this graph here? So let's just look at this particular point right here. So the hare population is actually pretty high, right? And if you'll notice, the lynx population is pretty high, but a little bit delayed. Okay, and if you think about it, it makes sense. If there's a lot of hares, there's a lot more prey for the lynx to eat. So then they're going to be able to provide for their families better, and then they're going to increase. Of course, when you have more lynxes, they're hungrier, right? They need more food. So then the rabbit population decreases. So notice the trends follow each other, except it's just a little bit delayed. Okay, so the next one is a scavenger, and a lot of people get scavengers and decomposers mixed up. They actually have the same purpose. They help us get rid of leftovers and dead decaying things, but the difference is a scavenger can actually seek out its food. Okay, so there's some examples up here. A hyena, you know how they let the lions do the chasing and then they come in and eat later on, and vultures are the same way. And what's really funny is some of these things look so ominous and scary, but they have no hunting skills. So basically what they have to do is go in later and get their food. And again, I'll show you this video later. Okay, competition. Now, I know it looks like I have the word in here a bunch of times, but this is important, okay? You guys know what competition is in terms of sports and grades and all that, but competition in terms of biology is when two organisms want the same thing in the same spot at the same time, okay? And I have that word underlined purposely, right? You have to look for the word same. If you have a bird that lives in a tree and it eats fruit, and then you have another bird that lives in the tree that eats bugs, technically they are not competitors because they do not want the same thing. Okay, so some things they might fight for could be food, mates, territory, etc. So here you see two bears fighting. There could be a female watching close by. He could have gotten a fish that he felt like belonged in his area. Who knows? And then these are two different species of beetle fighting probably for some food or something. Okay, all right, parasitism, you guys know what parasites are. One organism is benefited and the other is harmed. And the one who is called the host is the one that is harmed. All right, so I like to use plus and minuses. Plus means it's a good thing, minus means it's a bad thing. So you guys are familiar with these because I'm sure you've pulled a tick off of your dog or off yourself, or fleas. So the examples here, a tick and a person. Obviously the tick is getting food, the person can get sick, and the person is losing blood. Okay, this one looks like a baby bird that hasn't even gotten its feathers yet, and all of those maggot-like things are feeding off of them. Look how fat this one is from drinking all that blood. So obviously, I'm sure this bird won't make it. And this one, this is a heart out of a cow, and all this stringy looking spaghetti stuff are heartworms. So this cow actually died from the heart rupturing because of all those heartworms. And that's why, they've invented those heartworm pills that we give our cats and dogs, so to prevent these worms from growing inside of them. Okay, the next one, mutualism. I think you guys have heard the word mutual before. It just means both species get something good out of it. Okay, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So plus plus. Up here, the sea anemone and the clownfish. The clownfish gets protection from the sea anemone, and then the sea anemone gets food that the clownfish might drop, or something that might come attack them, they eat it. This one here is a moray eel, and this is called a cleaner fish. So obviously, you guys can tell this fish could eat this little guy anytime he wanted to, but he doesn't. They have a symbiotic relationship. When this eel is done devouring his food, he will open up his mouth and he signals the little cleaner fish to come in, and it eats all the little morsels in between all the teeth. So he's getting dental care, and the little black and gold and white guy is getting some food. Okay, so that's mutualism. And it's not just always animals. Over here you see a honeybee and a flower. So the bee goes into the flower to get the nectar, and then unbeknownst to him, all the pollen that this flower is releasing to reproduce gets all over his furry little body. And then when he goes to the next flower to get more nectar, he helps that flower reproduce. So remember, mutualism is plus plus. Okay, the next one, which is the hardest ones for kids to understand, is called commensalism. So far we've had a plus minus and a plus plus. This one is a plus zero. So in other words, one organism is benefited. Okay, you notice they all have to have at least one plus sign. But the zero kind of means neutral. It's not affected. So it doesn't hurt the other organism, but it doesn't help him either. Okay, so here's an example here. This is I think you call him a decorator crab. He actually takes all of these sea anemones and puts them on his back, and the crab doesn't get hurt from them being up there. It doesn't help him either, and then those sea anemones get a free ride. Okay, and this one here, this shell-like organism is called a limpet. It's very similar to a mussel. Oh, I'm sorry. This black part here is a mussel, and these little white things here that almost look like barnacles are limpets. So it doesn't hurt the mussel that those things are up there, but it doesn't help them either. So those limpets are getting a free ride, whereas the mussel's not affected by them being up there. Okay? All right, so here's just kind of a review of those. Mutualism, both benefit, plus plus. Parasite, one benefit, one is hurt, plus minus. Commensalism, plus zero. One benefits, the other is unaffected. Okay, now y'all, one that you will never see is a minus minus. Okay, nature does not support a relationship where two organisms are both harmed. It just doesn't do that. All right, so let's give these a try here. An ibis enters a crocodile's mouth after her meal to clean her teeth. Okay, so that sounds like something positive to me. Then the ibis is supplied with food. So if you have two pluses, then it is obviously mutualism. Okay, let's try another one. A leech latches onto a human for blood, removing needed nutrients. Okay, so obviously, I think you guys know a leech, if it's getting nutrients, then it's a plus. But if it's removing something from the human that it does need, it's a minus. So plus minus would be parasite. Okay, all right. A sea anemone attaches to the back of the crab for locomotion. The crab is not harmed or helped by its presence. So if he gets locomotion, that's a plus. If it doesn't help him or hurt him, that's a zero. That would be commensalism. Okay. All right. Now this is a good one. A lot of people thought this was mutualism. If you have those little fish that swim around the shark, they're called remora. And after the shark goes through its feeding frenzy and there's like leftover pieces of other fish floating around, the remora take advantage of that and they eat it. Okay, so the difference here is it doesn't help the shark and it doesn't hurt the shark because they're just getting it out of the water. So that would be more like a +0. So that would be commensalism. Okay, maggots feed off the blood in an open wound of a cow, giving the cow an infection. So feeding would be positive. The infection is definitely negative. So this one absolutely parasite. Okay, all right, let's do one more. Protus lives inside the gut of a termite to help it digest wood. So it just said help. We know that's a plus. Then it receives nutrients from the termite. So that's a plus. So plus plus is always mutualism. Okay, so what I'd like for you guys to do is try the Google form that is attached. I think it actually named it Symbiotic Relationships or Relationships in the Ecosystem, something like that. And then tomorrow we'll do some activities with this also. Okay, thank you. If you have any questions, email me.